Hey folks, Jeremy here from North Central Nurseries. We want to talk to you a little bit about the air laying process on trees, shrubs, hardies, so on and so forth. And the reason why we do it with air laying versus cloning by cuttings is the process is A, faster and germinating roots, and B, is a better success rate for time consuming wise. And for those that are like, you know, it keeps failing every time I do it by cuttings, well, going this route, you could actually be more successful. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. Anybody can do it right out of their home or nursery. A couple things you would like to think about trying for under $10, you can get a small bag of peat moss, Sphagnum Miracle-Gro. It actually tells you, it helps promote strong root development, root growth, whatnot. Another compound you can use while doing that with that product is any kind of rooting hormone. Now, it can be liquid, it could be the powder form. It doesn't matter, they all work about the same. You can use honey. I've seen people do it with the honey. Um, Syrup, I've heard people doing it with syrup, and there has been a few people that have told me that it does work. Some say it doesn't really work. It actually created the plant to just wilt and die over. I guess it just depends on your thing. But if you're using Sphagnum peat moss, it already has a product in it that promotes the root growth, root growth rather. Um, so you don't really have to use the rooting hormone compounds, honey, whatnot. But we do it for a guaranteed success rate. It's a give you a 20 to 30% more of a chance of survival. Uh, but let's get right to it and show you what we're dealing with here. So when you're using the peat moss, you can use coconut moss, coconut hide, whatnot. But the product we're using here is you want to with this stuff, and really with any medium, you want to think about also using a little bit of perlite with it. That actually really helps as well. And if you're doing a big mixture like a 2 cubic bag, 2 cubic foot bag, I'd recommend probably about a half gallon to a little 3/4 of a gallon of perlite in that mixture. Mix it up real good in a 5 gallon, couple 5 gallon buckets, whatever. Uh, you want to make sure when you submerge the moss in a 5 gallon bucket with water, you want to moisturize that and completely submerge it in water for about 3 to 5 minutes. And then when you go to pick it out, which I can show you here, it, you just take it and it's gonna really be soaking wet, and you want it to be clumpy, you know, so it's not dripping with water anymore. And the reason for that is the more water that's in there, the longer it's going to take for root germination. Also, it will. I've heard. I haven't had it happen myself yet, but I've actually heard that it will actually cause it to just get mildewy inside and whatnot. What you can do um, in this form here with air laying, you can use plastic wrap, food grade. I suggest food grade plastic wrap, or um, water bottles that are eco-friendly. And the reason why we're going this route is you have to remember that these containing sources are actually going to most likely 90% of the time be in direct contact with the sunlight. And those heat waves and sun rays beating on that plastic day in and day out for the month to 3 months that it has to be on there, it will actually release toxins into the soil or the medium, and that'll go into your root system, into your stock. And if it is a fruiting type of tree that bears fruit, bears nuts, whatever, you have to remember you're consuming that. You or somebody else is going to consume that, and it's not healthy. You can get ill from it. Chances are probably not, but play it safer than sorry. Why not? So let's get right into this real quick. You would take any knife, you would pretend this is still on the tree. Never, when you're doing this, you never break it off the tree. This is just to show you off of a silver maple here in the north central area. Uh, you would want to make, you want to choose a nice section that's kind of mainly flat, not too curvy, like like a 90-degree angle, because you won't be able to obviously do it with the 90-degree angle. You want to choose an area that's nice and flat. You know, go before the bud points on the plant, such as here and over here. Uh, Nothing over an inch and a half is necessary, because you got to remember, the bigger that wound that you're making, the longer time it has to heal and cake over, because your roots are only going to grow on the one side of the cutting, which is usually on the closest to the actual tree itself. So you would just take your knife and make a ring cut into the bark on one, and about an inch to inch and a half down, you do it again. And then you would take your blade and just gently cut into that bark, and then take your blade and lift it up. Now, if you did it correctly, if you went deep enough, there won't be any green bark, inner bark, on your stem. It got a little soil on it, so don't worry about that. But you'll see that there's green on there. So yeah, I did it right. And once you've went through that process, you take your blade and just vertically scrape it, like you're trying to, like, make a scratch on, on you got like an itch on your neck or something. You just scratch it up, rough it up a little bit, and the point for that is to stimulate it, and it'll, the little shavings that you've made that are going to stick on, those will actually help with root growth and help, cake better and take better to the root system with the product that you use. Now, you can take the take root that you can get for $2-3 at Walmart, and you just use a suggested using a foam brush, and just gradually brush it on all the way through both ends. Nice good layer. And then you would take your bottle, if you're using a bottle form, you take it and you make that vertical cut down all the way through, and you just slip it on. Like so. And then you would get any kind of tape. It could be masking tape, for goodness sakes. I mean, there's no real specific, as long as it just holds. You can even use the plastic film, for like food grade, like I have over here. But you just take it, you tape down this end real nice and good. And now you would fill this container with medium. And keep in mind, you can use the perlite, and it actually will help. It'll thrive the plant for more root growth. And you just take it in, just throw it in, gently. Don't. One thing that people make a big mistake on is they actually will sit there and they'll just cram down on it, and you don't want to do that. And the reason being is you're going to knock all that rooting hormone off of that incision that you've made on the plant. So once you've got this completely filled up, you can always just flick it, and you want to squeeze it real nice and tight. And then you take the other top of another bottle, and you would put it on, and then you tape up this part, which we can show you here. Until it's all the way taped down, and then you'll still have where you'll see you got that opening from your side incision that you had to make on your bottle, and you just take a piece of duct tape, nothing special, and just put a strip on to cover it up like a band-aid. And now what happens, this would pretend there's a big tree right here, and it's just hanging like that. This will actually stay like this for anywhere from a month and a half to 3.5, maybe even 4.5 months. It all depends. You know, once you start seeing root growth in here, you'll start seeing it, and it's going to get real thick and real nice. And you want to see, you want it to be a lot thicker. If you start seeing root growth like after the first month, just hold off for another month or so. Even 2 weeks will help. Just hold off until you see those roots get thick enough until they're about a 16th or a little over a 16th of an inch thick. And there's got to be several of them. And we're talking 6 to 10, maybe even 15. It just depends on the type of tree, shrub. Hibiscus is a great way to example to do it with. And you'll take it and you'll open up the top of that bottle. You'll untape it, the top end closest to the tree. You'll remove that little cap that you put on, and then you'll take a spray bottle. You can even use a syringe, or you can use one of these spray bottles for $12.99 at Walmart, Ace Hardware, what have you, and just spray in there. If it's a bottle that's 16 ounces, we don't have to get technical on the size, but if it's roughly like 16 to 20 ounces, once a week you want to open it up. You want to fill that medium. If it's damp, then don't water it. But if it's kind of dried out and you can tell it's really dry, just go in there and just spray a little bit of water real gently on it for about 5 to 10 seconds, and enough to where you can pull off the tip on the bottom of the other end of the bottle, and it'll start spilling out a little bit. Once that's happening, cap the other end and let the rest of that water drain out, and then tape it back up and let it sit for the remaining until the next week, and check on it periodic, once a week, watering, check it daily. I recommend checking it daily, making sure no squirrels got to it, or any other kind of rodent. When you get that done, then for the bag here, 8.8 liter bag, and the compound and a roll of duct tape, that's what, 10-15 bucks, and you can make anywhere from 20 to 30 trees out of this. And in the months that are best to do this is between the beginning of spring to the beginning of summer. That's when the plant is actually pulling the most water. And when you get 20 to 30, you put, let's say, 15, even 20 bucks into the deal, and you probably spent in the whole thing maybe 5 hours of work. Well, if they're like white oak trees or red leaf maples or sugar maples, what have you on that, you're talking, they're going to be put in gallon pots. Now, at Home Depot, for a gallon pot, it's going to be anywhere from $14 to $34, $38. With this route, you can do it in just a few months at very most, and for a $15 setup, and make $10 to $15 per tree. You can sell on a Craigslist, Backpage, in your local penny saver, or you put flyers up in your neighborhood on your telephone poles, whatever. I'm not responsible if you do that. Um, anyways, this is a great method, and there's many other methods we would like to show you as we're proceeding in our future here. Uh, I like to dedicate this very first video to my older brother. Uh, he taught me 25 years ago, the gardening aspect of life, and just he was a real, and still is a real power horse, and just a real role model and the green thumb expert, always finding a way to make the next thing. You can do so much with grafting, cloning and different methods, and make so much money. And guys, the world's not limited to this much money. you know I work from home, 10 to 15 hours a day, or a week, excuse me. My wife works anywhere from 40 to 60 hours a week. We don't bring much income in, but guys and gals, this is a great way to pull in. Yeah, it takes a little time to get going. It takes a few months to get going, but once it happens in your first season, you can make 400, 800, 1200, 1600. The numbers are unlimited. Now, the best way I'm going about it is, I'm going and talking to the local neighbors and seeing some rare trees that you don't find in the stores. You have to go to those special nurseries to get them, such as the red leaf maple. Those are really hard to find, and the blood red, which is really unique to find, um, which you really only find that really toward the north. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on it, but it's just really beautiful, and it's hard to find. And I found one that was in a 5-gallon pot, and it was standing over 6 feet, and they wanted over $140 something for it. And they did, they obviously did it the same way we're doing it here to show you today. And it just, the money it can be made. So you figure every gallon size and height, if your plant is 2 to 2.5 foot, or even 3 foot in a 1-gallon pot, quote yourself or set yourself at a $10 to $15 market price, and then gradually grow. You can hold on to that plant for in your garage through winter, or in the ground, you know and strive for another year and get 3 4 times the amount of money out of it, because it'll have its own root system. It's established. Now it's going to be probably 4 to 16 inches taller. you know the thing is, people don't understand is, the more time you invest in that one thing, the more of value it could be to you and your family. And one thing I was told years ago, if you're good at something, never do it for free. And this is just a great way to start a little home project as a side job, even if you're retired. Military, we salute you, we praise you for your services, and this is a great way for you folks to do it too, and have a secondary income. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys.